Hello, listeners. Welcome to the newest installment of Favourite Fight, the part of the My Girlfriend Doesn't Like Robots podcast, where I go through and review my favourite fight from every episode of Battlebots 2020. This episode was a really decent episode. There were some really good fights, and some were a few duds, as is going to be the case with any episode really. But most of the fights were really good quality, some real good knockouts. It was nice to actually finally see some robots that we haven't seen. So we saw. First proper televised fights, I guess, from War Easy, Kronos, and Axolotl. I was really happy to see Kronos because one of my sort of favourite ones from last season. They didn't have a brilliant season last season. From the way it seems to be built this year, it looks like they could do a lot better. The ring on it looks a lot chunkier. It's a lot stronger, definitely, because I think it was in the Copperhead fight last season. They took like one or two hits and it just cracked it all to hell. It was mad. But this one looks a lot stronger. Admittedly, okay, the weapons and the motor died almost on the first hit from Bloodsport, but Bloodsport's a lot stronger this year as well, and and like even all the hits what they took throughout the rest of the fight, it wasn't like it was chipping away at it or anything. It was just tanking hits again and again and again. It looked really good. I say so. Obviously, Kronos is 0-2. I think even with a win, they wouldn't make the bracket because they lost pretty conclusively to P1, and then this fight was another bit of fight. It wasn't a knockout, which was surprising. I had thought it was going to be a much quicker knockout. It was a bit more of a ding dong, which was nice. And then we also had one of my other really good fights was Lockjaw versus Jackpot. Because Jackpot is my favourite robot this season. I love it. I just really I like the spirit of it. It's a budget build that's come in like really close to the start of the season or whatever, and he's gone 3-0 with 3 straight knockouts. I think, yeah, because they had the Sub-Zero as a knockout. They decapitated Ghost Raptor. And then they went and fucking knocked out Lockjaw, beating Donald Hudson of all people. Like this guy is like a legend in it. He's been doing it for 20 years or whatever, and like he's got giant nuts to his name. And then a rookie bot built on about $4,000 has come in and knocked him out. Oh, I was so happy to watch. I was getting goosebumps watching it. It was like because obviously like, towards the end of the fight when Lockjaw started smoking, they were in the corner and whatnot, and Jackpot was just sort of hanging on to it. I was like, leave it. I was screaming at it. Oh, major props to Jeff and the team behind Jackpot because they've built a hell of a machine. I'd love to see how far they can go in the bracket because they're one of only 3 teams who are at 3-0. You also got Mad Catter and Bloodsport as well. So they've got to be with three straight knockouts against at least decent opponents, even if going only on the strength of the Lockjaw win. Still a very, very good showing for them. They'll be top quarter. They'll be in the top quarter at least. I'd be astounded if they weren't. Because like Jackpot, I really like, even in both like sort of performance terms as well and pure aesthetics. Well, it reminds me a lot of Death Roll from last season. And Death Roll was one of my favourite ones from last season as well. Who like went all the way through the season, made it to semi-finals, which was brilliant. Like never had the weapon stop. I think Jackpot's lost the weapon once or twice. So I don't know if it's got the same sort of strength as Death Roll, but I'd like to see it. Even if it went as half as far as Death Roll did, that'd still be great because it's such a good show. I really like the machine. It's one that's got a real lot of potential. It's very resilient. They know what they're doing. Like even Jeff said in the interview after talking to Chris and Kenny, said after every fight we go through, we strip it down. Check everything what's broken, fix everything, redo everything. Like that's a recipe that's gonna get you fight wins. That's gonna get you a good place in the bracket because it's the same way the Bite Force have always done it. After every fight, they always strip it down, sort everything out, repair things, change things that aren't even broken yet but might break later. And it's that sort of methodical approach to it is going to give you a very strong bot, a very resilient bot, and it's going to get you a team that knows what they're doing, which they really do. Like this is their first heavyweight as far as I know, but like Vegas Combat Robotics, they've been doing I think beat weights and featherweights. I want to say like, they've been doing it in the sort of Vegas area for good years now. Like they're no strangers to it, and they know what they're doing. They got their heads screwed on right. My favourite fight from this episode was, for about the second or third time this season, was the main event. And I'm just thinking, we've had some really good main events. You had, like, obviously, the Tombstone Endgame one in the very first episode was, if nothing else, a pure spectacle. You had Uppercut versus Saw Blades the other week, which was mental. The Saw Blades and Whiplash one have all been really, was a solid fight. Whiplash and Gruff from last episode was brilliant. Oh, they've been some absolutely astounding main events. Like the fight cards we've had over the week. Some fights have been a bit sort of one-sided, a bit obvious, like Sub-Zero Grabot or Axel or Ribot from this one. Like fights where they're just like you can see where that's gonna go. It's only really gonna go one way unless they put it in there. That sort of 1% chance that it's going to be in there for a massive upset, but the main events have been consistently good quality, and this one was no exception. Tombstone versus Skorpios. This was mad. Skorpios this year is so much more impressive. Like they did really well in last season, season 4, but like to me they've always sort of lived in the shadow of Sawblade, because Sawblade seems to have, like, Zack Ryder was a brilliant driver. There is no doubt in that, and I'd say now he's probably at least on the same level as Jameson, because like the stuff he pulled out in this fight was just mad. Like Skorpios, every single fight they've had, like, so they're 2-1 now. They've got a knockout win over Tombstone, and they had the knockout over Perfect Phoenix, and even the Bloodsport fight what they had, like that was still a very good showing what they put on for it. That wasn't an easy win for Bloodsport by any stretch. It was a knockout. It wasn't an easy one. It wasn't one and done, which always amazes me, because like the people always say like, oh, they've got exposed wheels, this, that, and the other, but like the wheels on Scorpios always seem to take a really good hit, and they still go. And the way Zack can drive with half a wheel that's like knackered and just like bouncing around, he's mad, because it shows how much control he's got in the machine as well. And even Diane, the weapon operator, she's always she's not one to hold back. She's very forceful. Will always send the weapon, which is good, because that's what you get. Because you're going to get the damage points, you're going to get the aggression points on it as well. It was really blooming good. The wedge that Skorpios has, I've always sort of wondered why they had the little foldy things at the front, because I've never understood that. Because to me, it would make more sense to have like a flat wedge, so you can just get straight in. But no, it makes sense, because you can obviously whoever's coming at the front, in this case obviously Tombstone, whoever's coming in at the front is going to get teed up. They come over with a weapon and bang, you're straight in there. If you've got them on that curved up bit of wedge, then they're incapacitated for however long they're going to be there. And like even the hits what Tombstone put out on Scorpios' wedge with their blade, like it's a point where that can take damage. It's going to take hits that isn't going to massively affect how well that they can do it, because they've still got the big front plow bit at the front of the robot, which is the main sort of defensive side to it, and they can still tank the big hits. They're still going to be able, like Scorpios is one of the best examples of breaking their face with their own fist, because the amount of hits Scorpios can take is just mad. Like the sort of ones that would just be a one and done hit in any other context, Scorpios is just tanking them over and over again and can put on a brilliant show. It was such a good fight. Tombstone, very much to its credit, did not go down without a fight. It was a slog that they went through. Like they were always trying to do the ray move, so it was sort of spinning around and putting in that big tanking hit. Always going forward with the blade and always being aggressive as they could. But once the wheel came off, that was sayonara basically, because you can't drive a robot like that on one wheel. That's just not controlled movement. And like Ray, I love you. I don't care how mingy you get. That wasn't controlled movement. Having just the one wheel and just banging around like that, that's just crab walking. We've seen so many other robots that have been counted out because they're doing that, because that's just crab walking. It's not controlled movement. You can't drive in a straight line like that, no matter what you try and do with it, even with whatever sort of gyro forces you might be able to get from your weapon or whatever. Yeah, I'm really excited for how Scorpios does in the bracket, because like 2-1 with 2 decent knockouts, 2 very decent knockouts. I say they should be, if they're anywhere in the bracket, I imagine they'll be top half. They'll at least make top half. I would probably say between 10 and 15 is probably, because the Perfect Phoenix isn't much of a win, but then the Tombstone win is really good, and then they had a good loss against Bloodsport, who was obviously now also 3-0, so that puts them in good stead as well. So should be really interesting to see what they're like come the bracket. So yeah, that's my review of my favourite fight from episode 8 of Battlebots 2020, the main event, Skorpios versus Tombstone. Let me know down in the comments what your favourite fight was, what you thought of the episode as a whole. Do you agree with me? Do you think this was the best fight? And what did you think? What would you say was your favourite fight from it? Get some comments down there. Social media links and stuff will be in the description below. And I'll see you guys next time.